Meet The Lot, native token of Lukki Exchange and the most potential tool for investing this year. Trade now on P2B, B2B and Lukki.io.
So Jimmy, first of all, thank you very much for taking the time to sit down with me. I know you're a busy man at conferences like this. I'm sure you're getting pulled in lots of different directions. And I always feel like a creep coming up behind people and asking them if they would sit down for a chat with me. So thank you.
You're welcome.
One of the motivations I had for, and I want to talk a little bit about the debate earlier, but that's kind of just for fun. One of the motivations I want to speak with you was because I've been interested in crypto for a long time. It's not my core focus. I'm traveling around the world speaking with a variety of people in different categories. But crypto has been a very interesting subject for me. And it's always difficult to, in this space especially, with all the ICOs, tokens, coins, debates like the one this afternoon, how to discern what is value, where you should place your focus and your value. And I've relied on your Twitter feed primarily as someone who knows the technical aspects of this space to try to bring some reality to that understanding. So maybe we can just start today, but before we talk about what transpired this afternoon, what is your role currently in the ecosystem of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I would say my main thing is I am teaching a lot of developers about Bitcoin. Yeah. So I have a 2-day class. It's called Programming Blockchain. I've held it all over the world. I've taught lots of people, like whether or not they agree with me, I don't really care. Right. It's just, I teach them all about the protocol. I make them code their own Bitcoin library from scratch. Right. And after 2 days of very intense instruction, it's like a semester's worth of information. They come out afterwards with enough of that information to actually do something with it. Right. And they can go make like a testnet wallet or something like that. And that's good. That helps them because they can progress in their career. They can now go work at companies like BitGo or Blockchain.info or Purse or whatever. And I've had students like at almost every blockchain Bitcoin company, I think. Yeah. But that's my role. I like to teach. I like to explain. Obviously I do Twitter, YouTube. Yeah. I write a lot of articles on Medium. Yeah. I'm working on a book now. So there's that aspect which I tend to do a lot of. Yeah.
Do you contribute to Bitcoin core development at the moment as well?
Yeah, I have like 15 commits to my name. Right. But I haven't sat down and done a pull request in a while. Right. And part of that is intentional. I figured that at one point I had to make a decision. I could continue contributing to core, and that would be like 100 pull requests a year or something like that. Yeah. And I would do a bunch of reviews too. Or I could go and teach other people. Right. And I'm at this point, it's been about a year. I've taught like 400 people. Yeah. And if only even like 1 out of 4 of them end up doing a pull request, I'm ahead. Right. So it's for me a way to scale myself or scale your impact. Yeah. By doing the teaching, and that's a it turns out it's pretty profitable too, so it works out for everybody. Yeah.
So you're taking existing programmers, people with computer science skills, and giving them the fundamentals of how to engage in the Bitcoin ecosystem programming aspect.
Yeah, all about the actual Bitcoin blockchain, and that's the only real blockchain out there. Right. And it brings together like a lot of fundamental technologies in this interesting way, which is why I can't understand why you would use blockchain for anything other than Bitcoin.
Well, this is the interesting question, and I know we're tight on time, so we'll keep all of our questions and answers as concise as we can. But the reason why I was interested in speaking with you as well is because in this space you get all sorts of different factions and tribes that are all competing for their own self-interest or for their own community or what have you, and most of those people are vying or fighting for their side based on a tribal association more so than a technical knowledge, right?
That's absolutely correct.
I'm one of those people because I don't know the technical components of Bitcoin. I know what drew me to it at the beginning and what still draws me to it. But when this is why I asked you the primary question, because I don't have that technical knowledge, I have to rely on the knowledge of people like you and the things that you promote. Maybe it's a good time to break into what happened this afternoon, but and then we'll come back to the other stuff. But it must be. Is it frustrating to you to have discourse on this subject with people who don't have the level of sophistication around the technology that you have, and therefore perhaps have a different understanding of what it is and how it functions than
Yeah,
you do.
it is very frustrating sometimes, because a lot of people like Roger do sort of more or less lie, and and you tell him he's lying, and then people on his side are like, no, he's not, and they don't know the technical details either. So it gets
once
kind
people
of,
pick their side, it just evolves into
yeah,
tribalism.
unless you have the ability to actually go and look at it. And this is one of the really extremely frustrating things about being a developer, is oftentimes, they think, oh, well, he's saying one thing, this other guy's saying something else, you just split the difference. But no, there's an actual objective truth.
There's
This
a
isn't
truth here.
This isn't like opinions about
Who said it better or anything like that,
who's more beautiful or something, right? Like there's an objective answer.
Yeah.
It either is a block size increase, like SegWit either is a block size increase or it isn't.
Right.
Like it's maybe they're both right, or like none of that makes sense. So so for me, and most developers hate getting into those kinds of discussions as well, because they don't like to just have to tell all these people that are completely deluded and don't understand anything, like why they're wrong.
And probably have a more difficult time doing it than a quote-unquote politician.
Yeah.
I don't want to slam anybody here, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you're technically inclined, you may not be as verbally inclined, in the sense of making an argument.
And Roger's main thing is like being able to twist. I don't know if you saw the debate today, but he kept twisting.
I saw all of it, yeah.
He twisted everything I said and said, oh, so you're saying we shouldn't read Rothbard. I'm like, that's not what I said.
Right.
I said, that's completely irrelevant. That's based on an appeal to authority. Why don't we just talk about the actual logical issue?
Right.
And he just kept going, that's extremely frustrating, right?
Sure.
It's like, who wants to talk about that stuff?
I get you. But you probably had some level of expectation around how that interaction would go down.
Yeah, I didn't think he would be that bad.
Okay.
I honestly did not. I thought he would be a little bit more objective or truthful, but I mean, he would just, I would say X, and then he would lie about what I just said.
Yeah.
And that was extremely frustrating because it's so completely blatant.
Yeah.
But as a technical person, you do have to have at least put the right information out there.
Sure.
And I attempted to do that and that's why I prepared pages of notes. And they're like, oh, you prepared? Well, yeah, you didn't. Okay, well, like whose fault is that?
Yeah.
But I prepared and said everything that I wanted to. I wanted that recorded. I put it out on Medium already so people can read my argument.
Yeah.
But I think, like this gotcha kind of like, oh, we're going to be like TMZ and make you look bad for losing your cool.
Yeah.
That's so stupid.
Sure.
It's the most idiotic and unintelligent like gotcha politics journalism.
And it's unfortunate that a revolution of this kind that has so much potential has devolved and gotten stuck in the mud a little bit in that way. But my question for you is, I heard something, I'm paraphrasing right now, but it's something, it was to do with religion, in arguments against religion, but in the past it was something like, the truth is the truth. It doesn't need you to believe in it or not. It doesn't need you to argue for it or not. As a technical person who sees like the insides of this, which 99.9% of people do not, does that give you, I mean, it must give you just a faith and confidence, like, well, okay, I'm in this circus and people can paint things the way they paint them, and it can appear as however people make it appear, but end of the day, I know what this is, and I know.
And that doesn't just apply to code. I know what the code is.
Right.
I know what it's going to do. I know how poor like the Bitcoin Cash code base is and everything else. So in that way I have confidence because I know it's going to run. They can like say, oh, it's going to die, or it's there's all sorts of problems with it or whatever. But they're generally not technical people that are saying this.
Yeah.
So if they do make an argument, then I'll go take a look at it, like from a technical level.
Yeah.
90% of the time they don't. They just make up stuff.
Yeah.
But I have confidence in that. I think also sort of from a market economics point of view, like there are people that get deceived by people like Roger who just completely lie, right? Like he just lied about what I said, but and everyone's like, that's what he said. No, he completely mischaracterized what I said right after I said it, which to me is like the scummiest thing you can do. Right. Like that's.
Well, this is kind of the shame and how things have devolved in my opinion.
Yeah, but you know what? I think people are smart, and I want them to see that.
Right.
And as soon as you see, wait, that's not what he said, You know, like I think people go, okay, well, he made an argument, and Roger just said that's nonsense, and I know better than you. Like, what does? Okay, who should I believe? Like, there are signals to people that are non-technical where you can like gauge someone's integrity based on what they do, and not based on like whether or not you
the
get
words
poked
that
enough.
come out of their mouth
Yeah.
and the reactions that it gets. I agree 100%. And you know, I on a philosophical level and on a technical level of various kinds, I believe the truth is revealed in the end.
Yeah.
You know, and so. And you know, you could the free market is kind of a corollary to the truth because it allows it to emerge over time.
Yeah, and you're reminding me of a very good lesson that I should learn, which is much more stoic, right? The truth will win out.
Right.
What the hell are you worried about?
Well, that's
like
what
this guy
asking about.
you.
If you know the technical, everything about it, and you know the fundamental attributes of this.
Yeah, I suppose I feel like my honor was insulted.
Right.
And I don't like that. But that said, you're absolutely right. Like, it shouldn't bother me.
Right.
And I should have more of a stoic attitude where I'm like, you know what, like, he can say whatever he wants, but that's just going to reflect worse on him in the long run. And in the short run, I might get angry or whatever, but I'm not in this for 6 months. I'm in this for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, what it represents at its core, what people bought into at the beginning.
And it's like unstoppable. If everything works, as long as there's like no crazy like a break of ECDSA or SHA-256 or something, like some really highly improbable scenarios from a mathematical and technical point of view, this thing is unstoppable. I know what this is.
Yeah.
This is freaking unstoppable.
Yeah.
And I've you sometimes try to play devil's advocate and figure out, okay, what can it do?
It's important to play devil's advocate.
Yeah,
like
but
that. And that's kind of it's important to have this around it to test it. You know,
it's been around for 9 years. There's been a lot of governments
but I mean, you know, these other people like Roger, if you put him in that category, but the whole industry. It's important to, because not just attacks from governments and from hackers and that thing, but attackers from other free market players, attackers, to really put the pedal to the metal, the rubber to the road for this particular technology. And let it see if it actually withstands it. And you just kind of answered what my next question was going to be, but I've been asking a couple people around here, John McAfee, Bobby Lee, etc. What are the existential threats to Bitcoin BTC? Because the way I see it, I agree with you. Like the fundamental attributes that it represents, if they are not broken, then given the appropriate amount of time, this continues to expand the way it's been expanded.
Yeah, I don't know all possible attack vectors.
In your mind, I mean.
But I mean, I'll say first of all that Bitcoin Cash or even like Litecoin or any freaking ICO, they're all super vulnerable.
Right.
Anytime, so the U.S. government can say ICOs are a security, all the ICOs would die right away.
Right.
And they would have to figure out how to give their money back or something like that. A lot of altcoins, they just regulate the development and it's done. Bitcoin's a little different. Bitcoin's got a lot of ways in which it's learned to be as decentralized as possible.
Yeah.
So obviously the obvious ones are like the mathematical ones. Double SHA-256. If you can find a pre-image, in a reasonable amount of time, that would break mining, and that
nobody understands what you just said, but basically it means if.
All right. I like trying to explain things. All right. So mining is this mathematical process. It's called mining for a reason, right? Like when you mine for gold, you have to process a lot of dirt and rock before you find some. Right. And it's I'm told it's somewhere around 2 to 90 tons of dirt and rock before you find 1 ounce of gold.
Right.
Okay, and that's a typical gold mine. But once you find it, it's very easy to verify, right? Like you rub it against a touchstone, you do some chemical tests, it's very easy. Oh, okay, yeah, of course that's gold.
Yeah.
But finding it is the hard thing.
Yeah.
It's very much like that for proof of work, except it's a number. It's numerical. So you have to go through the numerical equivalent of a lot of dirt and rock before you get to that.
Yeah.
That process, if it could be short-circuited somehow, and they could come up with something that's it would
Reduce
be
the
numerical.
amount of work.
It would essentially be numerical, the equivalent of numerical alchemy.
Right.
If that were available, then yeah, that would break.
Right.
But again, very highly, people have been trying for a very long time to do that. They haven't been able to.
And am I right in assuming that if you have the cryptographic knowledge or the technical know-how to break that algorithm, then there would probably have been lower hanging fruit prior to that, i.e., traditional financial.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's hard to figure. I'm sure it would be very exploitable. Absolutely.
Right.
But like again, like that would be it's a very difficult, highly nonlinear problem. It's extremely difficult for a reason, and they design these things that way. So there's that. Similar thing with ECDSA right now. When you sign with your private key, right, like a transaction, right, like if I'm sending you Bitcoins, I have to sign something with my digital secret, basically. If that process can somehow be broken, and again, people have been trying this for like 30, 40 years to break that, and it's very, very hard, then that would break a lot of stuff. It wouldn't quite break everything, and there would probably be a very fast transition plan to something else as a way to mitigate that, but that would be another one. There's several things like that. So you have the double shot 256. You have maybe ripe MD 160. If that broke, I mean, I don't think that would be an existential threat. I guess we haven't really seen, sort of from a social or political perspective, what a serious government crackdown would look like.
Right.
That's possible. I don't think they're going to do it.
Right.
Because I think it would be really unpopular. And like you could maybe do it in China. In the U.S., that would be like, why? And then all the Bitcoiners would just leave. I think.
But also the irony of that, or perhaps the resultant outcome, is that Bitcoin kind of emerged out of the inherent issues of the existing system. The harder that the existing system squeezes, the greater the argument for Bitcoin, and presumably the higher the demand for it. So if things really crack down hard, I feel like the community would find ways of.
I actually like it when there's pressure put on Bitcoin, because it makes it more anti-fragile. And all evidence that I've seen is that whenever you pressure Bitcoin, it actually ends up better. It gets stronger every time. So, if you did have a serious government crackdown and Bitcoin survived, oh my God, that price is going to be insane. Because
and it emboldens it further.
And everyone will be emboldened with that, and you'll eventually have capitulation somewhere. But I want a tax on Bitcoin. I mean, not like these stupid political attacks, but like actual. Like nobody really listens to Roger except the people he pays. But like the actual, like real world, like pressure and breakage, or attempts to break it. That I totally welcome, because I want it to get as strong as possible.
I know you got a big steak waiting for you. So last two questions. The first one is, I have since 2010, 11. I've been fascinated by Bitcoin, thought it was super cool, never thought it could actually achieve its current status, but here we are. One of the potential inherent flaws I see in it is that we have this anonymous creator who may have control of a fairly significant portion of the total supply. Maybe. I don't know, but it's possible. And if it reaches a greater and greater scale, then that influence will be tremendous. The fact that if you control a big portion of a global currency, then that's pretty tremendous influence. Kind of the type of influence that Bitcoin was trying to subvert, like such as the influence of a central bank. What's your feeling about that issue, if it is an issue for you?
I don't think it's an issue. I don't think Satoshi's coming back, and I think those coins are gone.
You think he destroyed them?
Well, I don't know if he did.
She, they, whoever.
Yeah, like whoever Satoshi is, Satoshi disappeared, and for very good reason. And like just knowing like how Satoshi kind of disappeared and everything, I mean, it's possible Satoshi comes back and he has all the, or Satoshi has all these Bitcoins, like 1 million Bitcoins. It'll just get absorbed. I mean, it'll be maybe like a slight inflation on a momentary basis, and maybe there's an influence thing, but. I wouldn't worry too much about it. The market's very good at handling news like that. Now, is Satoshi going to now suddenly be a dictator? No, just another holder.
Right.
Right. Like, and there's lots of people that are richer than the richest Bitcoin holder. So I don't think that matters, at least right now.
Well, sure, but my meaning was if it reaches a 1, 10, 50 trillion market cap, then that person would be presumably the richest person on Earth. But I take your point that the market would flush it out.
And I think he would have earned it, honestly.
Fair enough.
Honestly.
Fair enough. Last question, Jimmy. I appreciate the time. Aside from debates that were had today, and this rampant ICO market and that we saw in 2017, and kind of and the current correction that we're in, and it has to be reminded a lot, even to me sometimes, not to maybe call it a bear market, because we're still way up where we were this time last year, just a year ago, But year to date, we're in a fairly significant correction. Given the context of the current time in this space, what are the 1 or 2 things that most excite you about this space, either still or as a result of the time we're in?
I mean, I usually like bear markets because that's when stuff gets done.
Right.
Developers are people too, and we get distracted when the price is going up like by $1,000 every day.
Right.
And it's really hard to get work done. So I like that a lot of people are building, particularly on Lightning, on some sidechain projects. Submarine swaps are like absolutely blowing my mind right now, especially if you use them with sidechains and cross-chain atomic swaps. It just,
I don't know what that means, but what's the outcome? Just
right now, like one of the arguments against Lightning is that if everybody in the world did one transaction on Lightning per year, that would be way too. That's still not enough block space or something like that.
Right.
You can do something like a submarine swap, and that's you can trade like Litecoin on chain for some Bitcoin in a Lightning channel.
Okay.
Which is kind of cool, right? And what's more, if you have a side chain which has Bitcoin, you can use that to swap against the Bitcoin on chain.
Yeah.
In the Lightning network. So on-chain, side-chain Bitcoin for Lightning network Bitcoin. So what you can actually end up having is you can have like sort of like a very long time frame channel open on Lightning. So like something like 5 years.
Right.
And you can just keep refilling it, kind of like a reusable debit card or something. Yeah. So it's like you fill it with a couple $100, you're running low, you do the submarine swap on a side chain where you keep some of your coins, never shows up on chain.
Right.
And it's still trustless.
Right.
Because that means that like your channel can just remain open.
Right.
And you'll have services obviously that'll provide that liquidity by saying, okay, we opened this giant Lightning channel that's got $1 million in it, and we're doing it so that we can refill all of these other ones or whatever.
Yeah.
That
solves scaling small transactions.
Pretty much it takes out like the need for on-chain settlement, except like once unless the other party's trying to cheat, in which case it'll be very profitable for you.
Right.
Or if it's if there's you can keep like a really long Lightning channel open, and you could do all the spending you want on it.
Yeah.
And you can have like different levels of security. So you might have a sidechain security, which might be like Elements on Liquid. That's like Blockstream's project. But say you have like some money on Binance, right? Some Bitcoins on Binance.
Yeah.
And they might be like, okay, well then we're gonna go on the Elements sidechain, and we can issue you tokens on that sidechain, which is the same as the main chain. But you withdraw to the main chain whenever you want. But by being on the side chain, now you can fund your Lightning, your Lightning channel again.
Yeah.
After you've spent your $100 from your debit card, now you refill it to $100 again.
Right.
That's real. I mean, like,
I'm shaking my head. I only partially understand. But I'm getting from you what you're excited about.
Yeah, it's cool that like there are like a lot of what the people that are flooding the Lightning network.
Yeah.
They don't really understand the depth of human creativity and innovation.
Right.
You can have something like that.
Accurate,
yeah, and this is one of the things that really annoys me about a lot of these arguments, because they assert things that they don't know. And like one of the things is like proof of stake. Well, you have to give like a plausible way to attack it. No, you have to show me why it's provably secure, not the other way around. Right? Like, people are very creative when there's a lot of money at stake.
Sure.
And yeah, they're like, well, if there's no that's not how security works. Okay? You have to prove that it's secure. I don't have to prove that you're insecure. That's not how it works. So,
so for the time, well, so Bitcoin is the only coin. After this correction, I'm getting the sense that you're bullish. So even
well, I mean, I don't know about the actual market, but as a technology, I'm very bullish.
For a short, I mean on the technology. But for people that are just getting into learning about it now, a lot of people might think it's too late. I missed the big run up and all that kind of stuff. Probably not the case, right? Because if this thing survives, it's going to have to accommodate a larger market.
And and you know, over any 5-year period, Bitcoin has done super well. Right. So it didn't matter if you bought 5 years ago at $100 or $1,000. You're still up a lot of money. And I think that's sort of the attitude you need to have. It's a long-term investment. If you try to time the market, maybe you get it right or whatever, but it also puts you into a bunch of bad habits like short-term trading and getting into you know, altcoins or ICOs. If you just think long-term, any time is a good time to buy. And
understand why this is of interest and have a long-term horizon and have faith.
And just lock it up, and you know, I mean, it's hard to hold, right? Like this is something that a lot of people don't understand. Like there were holders back in 2011 too. Like the people that stuck with it, well, they earned every penny.
Exactly. You know, a lot of people will see the quintessential Bitcoin millionaire today and be like, it was so easy. It's like, really? If you bought something at $1 and it went to 35, are you telling me you wouldn't have sold? You know, it takes discipline to do that.
It's very, very difficult. So.
Anyways, Jimmy, we're way over time. Thank you very much for joining me and giving me the time today. I'll let you get to your steak, and all the best in future endeavors, and hopefully the book goes well, and I look forward to reading it.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Jimmy.